Today we are getting into kitchen vocabulary, but in a useful way. You will learn words for tools, appliances, actions, containers, and real kitchen situations. This will help you follow recipes, ask for things in a shared kitchen, understand cooking videos, and feel more relaxed when food comes up in conversation.
Exactly. And we will not just throw a long list at you. We will look at images, hear examples, listen to mini conversations, and do quick activities so the words feel connected to real life, not just to a notebook.
Before we start the technical part, picture this. You are in a friend's kitchen. Someone says, "Could you grab the whisk?" And you freeze. By the end, that kind of moment will feel much easier.
So stay with us until the end, because we will build the vocabulary step by step, from the objects you see on the counter to the actions you use when you actually cook.
Key point. Name common kitchen tools before you describe what you do with them.
Let's start by reviewing a list of common kitchen tools. As you hear each item, try to imagine where it is in the picture and when you normally use it.
Good idea. This list is simple, but it is powerful because these words appear all the time in recipes, cooking videos, and conversations at home.
Knife. Cutting board. Whisk. Spatula. Peeler. Ladle.
Item 1, knife, and item 2, cutting board, often work together. You put food on the cutting board and you cut it with a knife. So those two are a natural pair.
And item 3, whisk. Item 4, spatula. Item 5, peeler. And item 6, ladle. Each have a very specific job. A whisk mixes, a spatula flips or scrapes, a peeler removes skin, and a ladle serves soup.
Now we will hear 2 example sentences. Listen especially for knife, cutting board, whisk, and spatula, because these words show how tools appear naturally in instructions.
In example 1, focus on the order of actions. First, the food goes on the board, and then the tool is used. That pattern is very common in recipes.
Put the vegetables on the cutting board and use a sharp knife. Example 1 is practical because it gives the place and the tool. The place is the cutting board and the tool is a sharp knife, so the instruction feels clear.
Also, notice the adjective sharp. A sharp knife cuts well, and a dull knife is harder and less safe to use.
Let's move to example 2. This one compares 2 tools in one sentence, so listen for the words that come after 4.
Yes, example 2 is great for choosing the right tool. A whisk is not for flipping pancakes, and a spatula is not ideal for beating eggs.
Use a whisk for the eggs and a spatula for the pancakes. Example 2 shows a useful pattern. Use a tool for a specific food or action. This helps you sound clear without making a long explanation.
And if you forget one word, describe the action. You can say the tool for mixing eggs, and people will probably understand whisk.
Now let's listen to a short kitchen conversation. Pay attention to how Sophie asks for tools politely while Jack is cooking.
This is the kind of language you need when you cook with another person. You do not only name the object, you also ask for it in a friendly way.
Could you pass me the spatula, please?
Sure. Do you also need the whisk for the sauce?
Yes, and I will use the ladle when the soup is ready. In that conversation, the phrase, "Could you pass me?" is very useful. It is polite, simple, and perfect when the tool is near another person.
And we heard 3 tools in context: spatula, whisk, and ladle. When you hear them inside a real request, they become much easier to remember.
Time to choose the correct sentence. Look at the image, listen to options A, B, and C, and decide which sentence matches the tool and the action.
Listen carefully for the word whisk. The correct sentence should connect it with mixing, not cutting or serving.
A. She uses a ladle to cut the eggs. B. She uses a whisk to mix the eggs. C. She uses a knife to mix the eggs.
The correct answer is, she uses a whisk to mix the eggs. That sentence matches the action because a whisk is made for mixing.
The other options sound strange because a knife cuts and a ladle serves liquid food. Connecting tool and action is the key here.
Now, let's guess the definition. You will hear a definition and choose the correct word from A, B, and C.
Think about the job of the object, not just its shape. In kitchen vocabulary, function often helps you remember the word.
A kitchen tool with a deep round end used to serve soup or sauce. A. Peeler. B. Cutting board. C. Ladle.
The correct answer is ladle. The definition mentions soup or sauce, and that is a strong clue.
A peeler removes skin, and a cutting board is a flat surface. So if the action is serving liquid, ladle is the natural choice.
Now I will say word at a time. Find the matching number in the image before Jack gives the answer.
A.
Where can you see a spatula in the image?
It is number 2 beside the pan, a perfect place for a spatula when you flip pancakes.
B.
Where can you see a ladle in the image?
It is number 4, inside the soup pot, so you can imagine serving soup with it.
C.
Where can you see a whisk in the image?
It is number 1, near the bowl of eggs, which makes sense because a whisk is used for mixing.
D.
Where can you see a peeler in the image?
It is number 3, next to the carrots, because a peeler removes the skin from vegetables.
Key point. Use appliance names to explain how food is cooked or prepared.
Next, we are going to review a list of kitchen appliances. These are bigger items, and they help you explain where and how food is prepared.
As the list appears, connect each appliance to one typical action: heating, baking, blending, boiling, or keeping food cold.
Stove. Oven. Microwave. Blender. Kettle. Fridge.
Item 1, stove, is where you cook in pots and pans. Item 2, oven, is where you bake or roast food, like bread, cake, or vegetables.
Item 3, microwave, heats food quickly. Item 4, blender, makes smoothies or sauces. Item 5, kettle, boils water. And item 6, fridge, keeps food cold.
Let's look at a simple structure now. It connects the appliance with its purpose, so your sentence explains both the object and the action.
The important part is to plus the action, to bake, to make, to boil. Listen to the examples and notice how the same structure stays clear.
I use the oven to bake bread. I use the blender to make a smoothie. I use the kettle to boil water. Those examples are easy to adapt. You can change oven, blender, or kettle, and you can change the action depending on what you are preparing.
And it is very conversational. If someone asks how you make tea, you can simply say, I use the kettle to boil water.
We will hear 2 more examples with stove, oven, microwave, and fridge. In example 1, listen for the prepositions on and in.
That small difference matters. Food can be on the stove because it sits on a burner, but it is in the oven because the oven surrounds it.
The soup is on the stove and the bread is in the oven.
Example 1 gives us 2 cooking places at the same time. Soup is on the stove and bread is in the oven, so the sentence feels like a real busy kitchen.
If you remember only one thing from example 1, remember on the stove and in the oven. Those combinations are extremely useful.
Now listen to example 2. This one is about leftovers, which means food from a previous meal.
Example 2 also shows 2 choices: save food in the fridge or heat food in the microwave. Very everyday language.
Put the leftovers in the fridge or heat them in the microwave.
Example 2 is something you can say after dinner. Leftovers go in the fridge if you want to keep them for later.
And when you are hungry again, you heat them in the microwave. Simple, real, and useful.
Let's listen to a short narration. Watch for appliance words and for the actions connected to each one.
This scene is a normal morning kitchen, so the vocabulary appears in a calm and natural order.
In the morning, Mia opens the fridge and takes out milk. She puts bread in the toaster and heats coffee in the microwave. While the coffee is warm, she turns on the stove to make eggs in a small pan. Later, she uses the blender for a banana smoothie and fills the kettle with water for tea.
The narration connects appliances with morning actions. Open the fridge, heat coffee, turn on the stove, use the blender, and fill the kettle.
That is how you build useful vocabulary. Not one isolated word, but a word plus a normal action in a real moment.
Let's choose the correct sentence. Look at the image and decide which option correctly names the appliance.
The visual clue is bread inside a hot appliance, so think about baking, not blending or cooling.
A. The bread is in the blender. B. The bread is in the fridge. C. The bread is in the oven.
The correct answer is, the bread is in the oven. We use in because the bread is inside the oven.
Fridge would make the bread cold, and blender would break it apart. Oven is the only appliance that fits baking bread.
Now, guess the definition. Listen for the action in the definition, then choose the appliance that does that job.
Remember, we are matching function and word. If it boils water, you need the appliance connected to tea or hot drinks.
An appliance used to boil water for tea, coffee, or instant soup. A. Fridge. B. Oven. C. Kettle.
The correct answer is kettle. The phrase boil water is the clue that points directly to kettle.
Oven and fridge are useful, of course, but they do not boil water for hot drinks. Kettle is specific and easy to remember.
Now, I will say word at a time. Find the matching number in the image before Jack gives the answer.
A.
Where can you see a blender in the image?
It is number 2, full of fruit, which is perfect for making a smoothie.
B.
Where can you see an oven in the image?
It is number 1, with a tray of bread inside, so it clearly shows baking.
C.
Where can you see a fridge in the image?
It is number 4, open with milk and vegetables inside, so it shows food being kept cold.
D.
Where can you see a kettle in the image?
It is number 3, near the mugs, a strong visual clue for tea or coffee.
Key point. Combine cooking verbs with ingredients to give clear kitchen instructions.
Now, we will review a list of cooking verbs. These verbs help you understand recipes because recipes are basically instructions in action.
When you hear each verb, imagine your hands doing the movement. That physical image makes the word easier to remember.
Chop. Slice. Stir. Boil. Bake.
Item 1, chop, usually means small pieces. Item 2, slice, usually means thin pieces. Both use a knife, but the result is different.
Item 3, stir. Item 4, pour. Item 5, boil. And item 6, bake, are also recipe classics. Stir in a pan, pour liquid, boil water, and bake in an oven.
Let's look at a support image with 3 panels. Each panel shows a different cooking verb in action, so use the image to connect movement and meaning.
Panel 1 is about cutting. Panel 2 is about liquid. And panel 3 is about heat. Those 3 ideas cover many recipe steps.
In panel 1, the onion pieces are small, so chop is a good verb. If the pieces were long and thin, slice would be more natural.
In panel 2, we can say, pour the milk and stir the mixture. In panel 3, the water boils and the cookies are ready to bake.
Now we will hear 2 example sentences with chop, slice, stir, and pour. In example 1, notice that 2 cutting verbs appear together.
Example 1 is very recipe-like. It tells you what to do before heating the pan, which is a common order when you prepare ingredients.
Chop the onion and slice the tomato before you heat the pan.
Example 1 separates chop and slice nicely. You chop onion into small pieces, but you slice tomato into flat pieces.
That difference is small but useful. If you say slice the onion, people imagine rings or long pieces, not tiny pieces.
Let's listen to example 2. This time, the focus is liquid and mixing, so the verbs pour and stir are the stars.
In example 2, into is also important. You pour milk into the bowl because the milk moves from one container to another.
Pour the milk into the bowl and stir the batter slowly.
Example 2 gives a clear sequence. Pour first, then stir. Recipes often use this kind of short action chain.
And batter is a useful word for pancakes, cakes, and muffins. It is a thick mixture before it is cooked.
Let's choose the correct sentence. The image shows a hand moving a spoon around in a pot. So listen for the verb that matches that action.
This is a good moment to separate stir from pour and chop. The picture is about mixing inside the pot.
A. Bake the soup with a spoon. B. Stir the soup with a spoon. C. Slice the soup with a spoon.
The correct answer is stir the soup with a spoon. Stir is the verb for moving liquid or food around to mix it.
Slice needs a knife and something solid. And bake needs an oven. A spoon in soup gives us stir.
Now let's guess a definition. Listen to the result of the action. Small pieces, thin pieces, liquid, heat, or movement.
The definition will point to a verb, not an object. So imagine the movement before choosing your answer.
To cut food into small pieces, often with a knife.
A. Boil. B. Chop. C. Pour.
The correct answer is chop. The key clue is small pieces, usually made with a knife.
Pour is for liquid, and boil is for heating water or food until bubbles appear. Chop is definitely the cutting verb here.
Now I will say word at a time. Find the matching number in the image before Jack gives the answer.
A.
Where can you see stir in the image?
It is number 3, where a spoon is moving around inside a pot.
B.
Where can you see boil in the image?
It is number 4, where bubbles and steam are rising from the pot.
C.
Where can you see chop in the image?
It is number 1, where the onion is being cut into small pieces.
D.
Where can you see pour in the image?
It is number 2, with milk moving from a jug into a bowl.
Key point. Use container words to talk about amounts, storage, and serving food.
Now let's review container words. These words are useful because food is often inside something, on something, or served from something.
This is also great for quantities. If you say a bowl of soup or a jar of jam, you sound more exact and natural.
Bowl. Plate. Cup. Jar. Pan. Pot.
Item 1. Bowl is deep, so it works for soup, cereal, or salad. Item 2. Plate is flat, so it works for sandwiches or pasta.
Item 3. Cup is for drinks. Item 4. Jar stores things like jam. Item 5. Pan is shallow. And item 6. Pot is deeper for boiling.
Let's listen to a mini conversation about setting the table and serving food. Notice how container words make the requests specific.
This is a realistic dinner moment. People need plates, bowls, cups, and sometimes a pot or pan is still on the stove.
Can you put 3 plates on the table?
Sure. Do we need bowls for the soup? Yes. And please bring a jar of sauce from the fridge.
The conversation shows useful combinations: 3 plates, bowls for the soup, and a jar of sauce. These phrases are more complete than single words.
Exactly. Containers help you organize food and communicate clearly, especially when more than one person is cooking or eating.
Now we will hear a short narration. Listen for container words and for phrases with of, like a cup of tea or a bowl of rice.
These combinations are very common in kitchens, cafes, and restaurants. They help you talk about food in practical amounts.
For a quick lunch, Leo puts rice in a bowl and salad on a plate. He pours tea into a cup and takes a jar of olives from the fridge. On the stove, a pot of soup is warm, and a small pan has mushrooms and garlic. Before eating, he moves everything to the table.
The narration gives us several useful chunks: rice in a bowl, salad on a plate, tea into a cup, and a jar of olives.
And a pot of soup is a classic expression. When you learn container plus of plus food, you can describe amounts very naturally.
Let's choose the correct sentence. The picture shows soup served in something deep, so think about the best container.
This is about shape and function. A bowl is deep, a plate is flat, and a jar usually stores food.
A. The soup is in a plate. B. The soup is on a cup. C. The soup is in a bowl.
The correct answer is: the soup is in a bowl. Bowl fits because soup needs a deep container.
We usually say soup in a bowl, not soup in a plate. A plate is flat and better for solid food.
Now guess the definition. The definition describes a container that stores food and usually has a lid.
Think of jam, olives, honey, or sauce. Those foods often come in this type of container.
A glass container with a lid, often used for jam, sauce, or olives. A. Plate. B. Pan. C. Jar.
The correct answer is jar. The clues are glass container, lid, jam, sauce, and olives.
A pan is for cooking, and a plate is for serving. A jar is mainly for storing food safely.
Now I will say word at a time. Find the matching number in the image before Jack gives the answer.
A.
Where can you see a bowl in the image?
It is number 1, holding soup, so its deep shape is easy to see.
B.
Where can you see a jar in the image?
It is number 3, with olives inside and a lid beside it.
C.
Where can you see a pot in the image?
It is number 4, on the stove with steam, which makes it right for soup or boiling water.
D.
Where can you see a plate in the image?
It is number 2, with a sandwich on it, which shows a flat serving surface.
Key point. Ask and answer kitchen questions politely when you cook with other people.
For our final section, let's review polite kitchen expressions. These help you sound friendly when you need a tool, want to help, or ask about a recipe step.
This is where vocabulary becomes conversation. You already know many objects and actions, and now you can use them with people.
Could you pass me, tra?
Where is the? Do you need help? Can I stir this? Is the oven on?
Item 1. Could you pass me is perfect for tools. Item 2. Where is that? Helps when you cannot find the whisk, the peeler, or the cutting board.
Item 3. Do you need help? Is friendly. Item 4. Can I stir this? Offers action. And item 5. Is the oven on? Checks safety and timing.
Let's look at one final structure for polite requests. It is very useful because it lets you ask for help without sounding demanding.
The word please at the end is small but important. Listen to the examples and notice how the request stays clear and friendly.
Could you pass me the whisk, please? Could you put the plates on the table, please?
The first example asks for a tool, and the second example asks for an action with plates. The structure works in both situations.
You can change the item easily. The knife, the bowl, the jar, or the cutting board. That makes the structure very flexible.
Let's use a support image with 3 panels to compare kitchen communication. Each panel shows a different social moment.
Panel 1 is about asking for a tool. Panel 2 is about offering help. And panel 3 is about checking if something is ready.
In panel 1, a polite request fits well. Could you pass me the whisk, please? The body language is friendly, not stressful.
In panel 2, do you need help? Sounds natural. In panel 3, is the oven on or is it ready? Can prevent confusion.
Now choose the correct sentence. The image shows one person asking another person for a whisk, so focus on a polite request.
A good kitchen request is clear and kind. Listen for could you and please.
A. Where oven the whisk? B. Give whisk now. C. Could you pass me the whisk, please?
The correct answer is, could you pass me the whisk, please? It is correct because it is polite, complete, and natural.
Give whisk now is too direct and grammatically incomplete. The third option mixes words in a way that does not make sense.
Let's do our final definition activity. Listen for the idea of offering help, not asking for an object.
This expression is useful when someone is busy cooking and you want to be kind and practical.
A polite question you ask when you want to offer assistance in the kitchen. A. Where is the jar? B. Is the oven on? C. Do you need help?
The correct answer is, do you need help? It directly offers assistance and sounds friendly in a shared kitchen.
Is the oven on? Checks equipment. And where is the jar? Asks for a location. Only, do you need help offers help.
Now I will say word at a time. Find the matching number in the image before Jack gives the answer.
A.
Where can you see a whisk in the image?
It is number 1, in the hand of the person who is mixing eggs.
B.
Where can you see plates in the image?
They are number 3, stacked on the table, ready for dinner.
C.
Where can you see a jar in the image?
It is number 4, beside the sauce and the spoon. Great job today. You now have practical kitchen English for real cooking moments.
D.
Where can you see a oven in the image?
It is number 2, with a tray inside and oven gloves nearby.